Teach for America was created to address the fact that in our nation that aspires so admirably to be a place of equal opportunity, where children are born still determines their educational and life outcomes. Today, about a fifth of our nation's children, 16 million kids, live below the poverty line. 8% of them will graduate from college by the time they're 24, while 80% of kids born into the top quartile of family income will graduate from college by the time they're 24. Teach for America channels the energy of our nation's most promising future leaders against this problem, fueling a broad and diverse movement to eliminate this achievement gap. In the short term, we provide students and schools in low-income communities with a critical source of teachers. These teachers are leaders who are committed to placing their kids on a path to expanded life opportunities. In the long run, we're building a growing movement of diverse leaders working at every level of education, policy, and in other professions as well to ensure that kids who are growing up in poverty get an excellent education. These are folks who are grounded in the experience of having taught successfully in low-income communities. Teach for America alumni are at the center of efforts to ensure educational excellence and equity. The vast majority of our 24,000 alums are still under the age of 30, but they are already assuming significant leadership in this effort. More than 580 of them run schools as principals. More than 90 of them are district superintendents and school system leaders, including Kevin Huffman, who manages the State Department of Education in Tennessee, and the superintendents in New Orleans, in Newark, in Washington, D.C. 60 of them are elected officials. 140 of them serve as policy and advocacy leaders, including Colorado State Senator Michael Johnston, who led the passage of a landmark bill that overhauled the state's teacher evaluation system. A number of entrepreneurs who have started some of the most significant education reform organizations are Teach for America alumni. The KIPP Charter School Network was started by 2 alums. The New Teacher Project was launched out of Teach for America, and its president is an alum. And Idea Schools Network, founded by alumni in South Texas to serve migrant students, includes a high school that was ranked as 13th in the nation by U.S. News and World Report. In fact, one of its co-founders, Joanne Gama, now serves on President Obama's Advisory Commission on Educational Excellence for Hispanics. Whether they are teachers, principals, politicians, advocates, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, or executives, Teach for America alumni are working to transform public education in our country. They're working to minimize the extra challenges facing children growing up in poverty, demonstrating that all kids can achieve at the highest levels, and increasing the capacity of public schools and school systems to deliver transformational education. In this manner, Teach for America, our core members and alumni, will continue to accelerate our progress towards the day when all children in this country have the opportunity to attain an excellent education. Teach for America aims to build an unstoppable movement for educational excellence and equity. In order to do this, we must get bigger and better, and we're in the midst of an ambitious plan to grow our impact dramatically by 2015. We pursue this vision by focusing on 3 major priorities. First, to grow in scale while increasing diversity. Second, to maximize the impact of our core members on their students' achievement. And third, to foster the leadership of our alumni as a force for change. We are determined to build on the foundation of our first 20 years and take advantage of the extraordinary energy and momentum around education reform to push our impact to the next level and ultimately fuel a movement for change that is truly unstoppable. Even if we stopped growing after 2015, successfully executing this plan will place us on a path to building a force of 150,000 leaders for educational equity over the next 20 years. We will meet our goals only if campus, community, and national leaders prioritize this effort, and by working in close partnership with an ever-expanding and increasingly diverse network of supporters from the public and private sectors. We need your partnership to raise awareness, to mobilize new recruits, to mobilize financial resources, and ultimately to effect policy changes that will enable our growth. Teach for America is the only organization tackling this problem of the achievement gap by focusing on building a leadership force for change. Leadership is both the greatest constraint and the greatest enabler in affecting real progress. We've seen that the schools, systems, and communities making real progress with reform have one unifying characteristic: strong leaders with the conviction to act boldly and the experience to promote policies and practice grounded in what is best for kids. Every district leader, school leader, and policymaker in education says that the greatest challenge they have is in attracting the talent and leadership required to achieve their goals. We've created a strong brand and a unique national pipeline of leadership for pre-K to 12 education that is not easily replicated. We recruit demonstrated leaders at 400 university and college campuses competing head-to-head with Google, McKinsey, and Goldman Sachs. We attract individuals who otherwise would not have considered teaching or education as a career option. Teach for America's success is driven by a relentless focus on continuous improvement. We examine our core members and alumni who are the most successful with their kids and feed the lessons we learn into our recruitment, selection, teacher training and development, and alumni programs. We're data-driven. We collect significant amounts of data on the characteristics, the mindsets, the behaviors of our core members and alumni, beginning from the recruitment and selection process and continuing through their 2 years in the classroom and beyond. We analyze the data with a central focus on determining what has the most significant positive impact on student learning and opportunity. We've learned over time that the most successful teachers in low-income communities operate like successful leaders, and we've codified our learning into a framework that we call Teaching as Leadership, which is the cornerstone of our program. And we're committed to programmatic continuous improvement at every level. Each year, we step back and assess what factors distinguish our most successful core members, what aspects of our training and support model seem to have had the most positive effect. And from there, we adjust our approach for the next year, refining our recruitment messages and selection model and testing new programmatic interventions. So we're continuously innovating to ensure that we're making the most of our investment in core members and alumni leaders so that they will have the greatest possible impact on our public school system's ability to deliver transformational education for kids. I think two factors are most critical to our effectiveness, in addition to our people, who are, of course, really the central reason that we're effective. The first is alignment at all levels around our overall vision, mission, priorities, and goals. We achieve this through undertaking comprehensive multi-year strategic planning processes every 5 years that engage really everyone who's part of our work: our staff members, our national and regional board members, key investors, stakeholders, our core members, and alums, in considering what our theory of change is, what we're aspiring to accomplish, and what we most need to focus on in order to advance our work. The second factor is a strong organizational culture built on clearly articulated, strongly held core values that center our actions. We aspire to live up to them in all that we do. We have 5 core values, the first of which is transformational change, just a recognition that to be successful at every level of our organization, we need to remain centered in a recognition of and deep understanding of the magnitude and consequences of this problem and the possibility for true meaningful change for our kids and for communities. The second of our values is leadership, just the recognition that to be successful, our work needs to be about fostering, empowering leadership, the leadership of our core members and alumni, and the leadership of our staff. Team. This is very intense, difficult work. And we know that to be successful, to sustain our efforts over the long run, we need to support each other in the effort. Diversity. We cannot be successful in the short run, or really mostly in the long run, if we're not far more reflective as a broader education reform movement of the racial and economic backgrounds of the kids and communities in which we're working. And then finally, respect and humility. This is a huge, complex problem with so many important actors. And we know that to be successful, we must work in partnership with others, grounded in a deep sense of respect and humility. Within the context of our 5-year plan, Teach for America measures our success by setting and tracking measurable goals associated with each of our 4 organizational priorities: growing in scale while increasing the diversity of our core, increasing our teachers' impact, accelerating the leadership of our alumni, and building an enduring American institution. Ultimately, to gauge the impact of our work, we need to rely on independent evaluations that gauge whether or not our teachers are successful with their kids, as well as longer term studies that evaluate whether our alumni are in fact affecting the fundamental systemic changes that we know are necessary. And Teach for America partners with independent evaluators and with our partnering districts and communities to ensure that those evaluations happen. Some people misconstrue Teach for America as an elitist organization of privileged do-gooders, when in fact we're an organization and a core member and alumni network of diverse individuals, each bringing his or her own unique perspectives and experiences to bear on this problem. A third of our core members are people of color. 12% of new core members this year are African American, and 8% are Latino. We recognize that it is particularly important to foster the leadership of individuals who share the racial and economic backgrounds of our students, 90% of whom are African American and Latino. And so we place a particular emphasis on recruiting committed leaders who share the backgrounds of our students. We have more progress to make, but we're encouraged that in recent years, growth among our target populations has grown far more quickly than our overall core growth. Another common critique of Teach for America is the 2-year commitment. The critique is that it undermines the teaching profession or is bad for schools and students. What we have seen is that requiring a 2-year commitment is absolutely crucial to attracting people of the caliber and diversity and other options that Teach for America attracts. Growing numbers of studies are showing that they do have a positive impact on their students' achievement even during their 2 years, even as compared to other veteran teachers in their schools. The third set of misconceptions and concerns revolve around the training and support that Teach for America provides to its core members. It is exceedingly challenging to prepare and develop teachers so that they succeed with kids in low-income communities. We have spent tremendous energy attempting to learn what the mindsets and skills and knowledge are that differentiate the most successful teachers in the particular context in which we're working. And we've developed a comprehensive 2-year program of pre-service and ongoing professional development in partnership with not only school districts, but schools of education in the communities in which we work. As people in the education field and certainly in our school districts have come to understand our approach from firsthand experience, they've come to respect it and to understand why it is that the studies that look at the effectiveness of our teachers actually do show positive impact relative not only to beginning teachers but also even veteran teachers in their schools. In communities where Teach for America has placed core members and has been building a growing force of alumni for 10 or 20 years, we're seeing significant progress being made, in no small measure because of the growing number of Teach for America alumni. Certainly these changes are happening for many reasons, but if you removed Teach for America from the equation, you would remove much of the energy, the momentum, and the leadership that is fueling an education revolution in low-income communities across the country. I think about Greater New Orleans. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, leaders implemented sweeping changes that have made New Orleans a hub for education, innovation, and reform. Major changes empowered principals with the responsibility and freedom to move students forward, and school districts made huge investments in attracting teacher and principal talent. Today, nearly 400 corps members and over 650 alumni are part of a committed network of school and community leaders driving improved outcomes for kids. Remarkably, more than 30 alumni are leading 20% of New Orleans schools. We're seeing a strong correlation between increased corps and alumni presence and improved student achievement. The LEAP, Louisiana Educational Assessment Program passing rates soared in 2011 with a 21% increase among fourth graders and a 24% increase among eighth graders. Teach for America alumni continue to bolster reform efforts across the city. They lead pioneering education reform organizations like Teach NOLA, the premier charter networks like KIPP New Orleans. Others have launched entrepreneurial ventures like New Schools for New Orleans. Alumnus John White now heads the Recovery School District, which includes more than 100 schools in Louisiana, most of them in New Orleans. In Houston, more than 2,000 corps members have taught in the city, reaching over 250,000 kids over the last 20 years. Alumni-founded KIPP schools and Yes Prep schools have changed the city's understanding of what is possible. Today, there are approximately 30 schools that I would call transformational for kids in Houston. Yes Prep's 5 high schools will soon send as many low-income students to college as the 34 other high schools in the district combined. Superintendent Terry Greer is working to transform the system itself as well by engaging with alumni leadership. The Chief Talent Officer and the alumni-founded New Teacher Project are implementing sweeping changes across the Human Resources Department. The district is also pressing reform efforts forward by turning around 20 underperforming schools using strategies from the KIPP and YES networks. Teach for America began working in Oakland in 1991, and today nearly 100 corps members teach in Oakland and 1,400 alumni live and work in the Bay Area. Alums have initiated reforms that have helped make the Oakland Unified School District the fastest improving district in the state. A small school incubator replaced underperforming schools with autonomous schools, which have significantly outperformed those they replaced. Oakland Teaching Fellows has improved the caliber of new teachers. Today, Teach for America alumni lead 10% of Oakland schools, including many of the highest performing and fastest improving, and several hold significant district leadership roles. At the same time, alumni launched Great Oakland Public Schools to mobilize parents and community members to advocate for change. There are 3 potential constraints to our ability to grow and to execute our program at significant scale: recruitment, placements, and funding, all of which have presented challenges at times in the past. In the realm of recruitment, it's not a given that Teach for America will continue to be able to attract the number and the caliber of applicants necessary to achieve our goals. We've seen that tides change on college campuses, that the war for talent is increasing again, that students and recent graduates are subject to the influence of many external factors ranging from the economy to career pressure from families to fears of failure to concerns about how difficult teaching may be. In the realm of placement, we must build the public support necessary to grow our teacher placements, which means influencing local school district, school boards and officials, and state and federal policymakers. Especially in challenging economic times, there are just many interests for keeping with more traditional teacher sources. And finally, in the realm of funding, growing our impact requires consistently growing our base of public and private sector support. We've been able to build growing private sector support that has fueled our growth even while we have faced challenges, particularly in growing and even maintaining federal funding. Recently, our federal appropriation was eliminated due to the economic and political climate in Washington, despite having perhaps the strongest support on both sides of the aisle on Capitol Hill that we've ever had. Ultimately, we will need to grow both public and private sector support in order to fulfill our potential. With additional resources, Teach for America will be able to grow significantly bigger and better, dramatically expanding the force of diverse leaders for educational equity and ensuring that we have even more impact on their students and on the long-term efforts for reform. Given what we have seen is possible in education reform and the fundamental role we have seen Teach for America play in affecting significant change, we are determined to grow our impact by growing in scale while increasing the impact of core members and alumni. In the short term, we aim to have 15,000 core members, reaching 1 million children and providing a quarter of the new teachers across 60 of the highest need urban and rural communities in the country. At the same time, we are working to grow our alumni force to more than 40,000 people who will be working for fundamental change on the path to an alumni force to 150,000 strong by 2030. At this scale, we will have built an unstoppable force for change and an ever-expanding force of alumni leaders. If you consider that the vast majority of the alumni and leadership positions today came through Teach for America in the 90s, and that we're currently placing more core members each year than the number of alumni we generated during our entire first decade, you can start to imagine the potential long-term impact from the investment in growing our core and developing their leadership in the classroom and beyond. We need support of our efforts to scale into new communities, increase the diversity of our core, increase the quality of our teacher training and support program, and strategically increase the impact of our alumni in educational and political leadership and in social innovation. Perhaps the greatest untapped opportunities for Teach for America lie in truly embracing its role in the global movement to eliminate educational inequity and learning from and with many of the staff, teachers, and alumni leaders around the globe. 4 years ago, we helped launch Teach for All to accelerate the impact of this model around the world. Today, the Teach for All network includes organizations in 22 countries in Europe, Asia, the Americas, and the Middle East, with programs in an additional 20 countries in every region of the world expected to join in the next 3 years alone. Teach for All works to increase the impact of network organizations through deepening commitment to our shared mission around the world, spreading best practices, fostering high-impact connections among staff, teachers, and alumni, and accessing global resources for the benefit of the network. Through Teach for All, we have learned that the problem of educational inequity is pervasive across countries at all levels of development, and we have learned that it is universal in its nature. So you can imagine the power of all these countries' top talent channeling their energy against the problem and then fostering sharing among them so that we have accelerating movements for ensuring educational opportunity for all, informing each other and growing in impact all around the world and here in the United States as well.